The Yezdi Roadking is a motorcycle produced in India by Ideal Jawa Ltd, Mysore from 1978 to 1996. The bike was based on the CZ250 ridden by rider Jaroslav Falta to the runner-up spot in the 1974 Motocross World Championship. It was sold under the brand name Yezdi. The bike won several Indian rallies and road races in India. The bike had a 250cc engine with twin exhausts and a semi-automatic clutch. Origins: the Yezdi Roadking was the successor of the not-too-successful Yezdi Oil King. The Oil King was the first motorcycle in India to attempt to move away from pre-mixed fuel to a separate oil lube system via an oil pump. The box-like shape on the left-hand cover housed the oil pump. Unfortunately, this system had a very high failure rate, resulting in piston seizures. This resulted in the discontinuation of the Oil King and the birth of the Roadking. The Roadking, though, still had the box on the left-hand side of the engine that housed the oil pump in the Oil King. The Yezdi Roadking was originally based on 1974 CZ, where the original bore and stroke of 70mm a 64mm was retained as it was, but with less power than its motocross original. The engine block is smaller and different from the Yezdi Classic in appearance. Also, the CZ original had the famous porcupine head, while the same was used only in initial models, later reverted to regular straight fin design. The cylinder block was from CZ, just like in the older Ideal Jawa or the Ideal Yezdi. The Roadking 2 came with an original Tesla headlight bulb as standard. Chassis frame: the chassis frame is single frame of motocross origins and was built out of square tube. The fork was more pronounced with a higher rake angle and came with adjustable shock absorbers. Rims were 16 inches. The motocross and ice racing origin frame and proper weight balance made handling very easy and agile compared to its rivals in India. Engine: the cylinder block was from CZ, which had an over-square bore X-stroke. Carburetors were either Jikov or Paco, of which the former was exclusively for Roadking while the latter was used for classic models. The spark plugs were of cold type, and the bike also featured a semi-automatic or auto clutch, where a cam inside the gearbox housing automatically activated the clutch through a cam, which is unique to this and other Yezdi models in India. The familiar Jawa CZ twin exhaust ports made the unmistakable sound when the exhaust flute mufflers and end cores were removed. Another unique feature of the bike was that the kickstarter and the gear shared the same rod as with all Yezdi models. Once the gear rod is reversed, it doubles as a kicker, and once started it automatically returns to the original position. The lever has an internal cam which disengages the clutch when the gear is shifted, thereby precluding the need for a hand clutch. Models and types. CB unit models equals. The bike was silently launched in India in the late 1970s by Ideal Jawa and was a rare sight even in those days. The bike had a prominent petrol fuel tank and the color was Jawa maroon and sometimes in black and gold pinstripe, priced slightly higher than the best-selling Classic and CL2 models. The troublesome contact breaker ignition was later replaced in 1993. Until 1989, the Roadkings had a provision for adjusting the front fork dampers. Oil King equals. During the late 1970s, another model known as Oil King was also launched, which featured an oil pump for the 2T mix with petrol, but later production ceased. The prominent protrusion of the left-hand side gearbox housing was the original location for the pump. Though the model was discontinued, the engine casing found its way into the Roadking, and hence all Roadkings have this protrusion even though the oil pump was not housed there anymore. CDI unit models equals. In 1993, in an effort to increase fuel efficiency and to solve starting problems, the CB or contact breaker ignition units were replaced with CDI electronic ignition units. The electrics were changed to 12-volt from 6-volt. The livery was also changed with some new graphics. The fuel efficiency was increased by 30%, but still its competitors were getting better, and with rising fuel prices the sales plummeted down until finally it ceased operations in 1997. Monarch equals. In 1996, the Auto Expo Yezdi displayed a model which used the Yezdi 350's twin-frame, Roadking engine and a sleeker fuel tank. The rims were 18 inch as opposed to the regular 16-inch. However, it sold only few numbers. although some attributes its low sales volume to the company's need to get rid of the additional Yezdi 350 frames that remained in the factory after the twin model was stopped. However, this is disputed. One of the finest engines ever made in the history of Indian motorcycling. In Indian Motorsports, in road races at Shillavaram, it ran in its own 250cc class, while in the Indian Open class category its main rival was Royal Enfield Bullet and later the much more powerful Radut 350. Power was usually increased to 25 plus bhp or beyond for Group E categories, where the engine was bored up till 300cc and the engine was over-engineered in stock trim. In track racing, the most famous was C.K. Chinnappa and Somender Singh. In rallies, the rallyist N. Jagadiswar already won many rallies during 1972 to 1980. Then rallyist Kapil Jagat and Anita Naunjappa and Thirumal Roy won several victories before switching to Radut Yamaha Road 350. During the early 1990s, FMSCI, the Sporting Federation of India, banned two-wheelers above 120cc into rallying, thus ending its run with Motorsports. In power gliders, the Roadking engines were a favourite among the power glider manufacturers in India. A Coimbatore-based manufacturer headed by late motor racing driver and constructor, S. Karavardhan, manufactured and exported several power gliders using Roadking engines with modified aluminium heads, K&N filters and sleeved bore. Further developments as a result of power glider efforts, during 1996, Somender Singh, a former Ideal Jawa racer and rallyist in 1996, developed a refined engine with aluminium engine with increased power and fuel efficiency, which was featured in Car and Bike magazine. The design was never put into production, even though it ended up with Ideal Jawa. Also, these motorcycles were used by various police forces around the world, examples being Guatemala, Sri Lanka, Egypt, Turkey, etc. External links: Official Ideal Jawa site.